When I was 16, my family took me camping. Then they left me alone in the woods. I'm not talking like forgot me at the bathroom stop left. I mean, deliberately drove off and abandoned me like some low-budget survival reality show. Only no cameras, no prize money, just teenage me and a rusty hatchet. It's been 6 years, and I still think about it like a movie I watched too young. Except I wasn't watching it. I was living it. My name's Eli. I'm 22 now. This happened when I was 16 and still under the delusion that my family might actually love me, or at least pretend better. My dad, Travis, was the kind of guy who thought tough love was the only valid parenting method. If you weren't bleeding, you weren't trying hard enough. And even then, he'd probably ask if you deserved it. My mom, Lacey, was always silent, a shadow with a grocery list. She never stood up, just moved around Dad's moods like furniture. Then there was my little brother, Jesse, 12 at the time, all Fortnite and headphones. He wasn't part of it really, just there, like wallpaper. The weirdness started days before the trip. Dad kept saying stuff like, "Time for you to man up, or you're not going to be soft forever, not in my house." I'd heard it before, but this time it felt loaded. The morning we left, over stale toast and coffee, he said, "Hope you're ready to learn something real." I wasn't, but I didn't know it yet. We drove 2 hours to this raggedy forest reserve, no cabins, no cell phone reception, just a fire ring, a moldy outhouse, and the sound of cicadas. The whole ride was quiet, except Jesse's phone spitting out YouTube shorts while Mom played Sudoku in the front seat. Dad had stared at the road like it owed him money. By the time we got there, the vibe was already sour. Dad barked orders like we were army recruits setting up a tent. I carried the cooler, tried to help, but every time I looked up, he was glaring at me like I was failing a test I didn't sign up for. That night, Jesse scrolled. Mom read some paperback. I tried to toast a marshmallow and nearly got a lecture about doing it wrong. The next morning, before the sun even dried the dew, Dad shook me awake. "Go get firewood." Not that junk near the campsite, real wood, deeper in. He handed me an old hatchet, dull and chipped. I asked, "How far?" He just said, "Far enough." I didn't think much of it. I was used to his grunts instead of instructions. I threw on a hoodie, stuffed a granola bar in my pocket, and headed out. 40 minutes. That's all it took. When I came back, arms full of branches, I heard voices my name, so I stopped, crouched behind a tree, not to eavesdrop, just instinct. Dad, if he wants to survive, he'll figure it out. Mom, are you sure about this? What if, Dad? My dad did it to me. Best thing that ever happened, he'll thank us. Jesse said something I couldn't hear. His voice was flat, disinterested. My heart thumped so loud I thought they'd hear it. I stepped out. They all turned. No one spoke. I dropped the wood. "What's going on?" I asked. Dad didn't flinch. "You'll be fine. Time to learn how to handle yourself." He started packing the tent. At first, I thought it was a joke, a test, one of those awful boot camp bonding things. I reached for my bag. He pushed me back. "Not hard. Just enough," Mom said. "Wait, maybe we should," but he cut her off. Told her to get in the car. Jesse tossed my hoodie on the ground. Didn't meet my eyes. I stood there, a granola bar in one hand, the hatchet in the other. "You can't leave me here," I said. Travis looked at me like he was disappointed I didn't already know better. "You'll understand when you're older." They got in the car. Mom dropped something, another granola bar, maybe on purpose, maybe not. The car door slammed, the engine growled, and they drove away. I stood in the dust cloud for a long time, waiting for it to clear, waiting for them to turn around. They didn't. I wasn't scared yet, just numb, like someone punched out my soul but missed the face. I checked my phone, 1 bar, no service, battery dying. I walked back up the trail to the parking lot, empty. For a moment, I thought maybe they were hiding, filming me, waiting to laugh. But the silence settled, heavy and real. I sat on a rock, waited. An hour passed, then another. No one came back. So I did what you do when you're 16 and abandoned in the woods with a dull hatchet and a hoodie. I tried to survive. I wandered the trails, yelling sometimes. No answer. Drank from a stream. Probably dumb, but I was thirsty. I rationed the granola bar. Lasted 2 days. Nights were the worst, cold, dark, loud. Every squirrel sounded like a bear. I didn't sleep much. I didn't cry either. I was too angry. Dad called it tough love. But to me, it just felt like a test no one expected me to pass. I thought about walking back to the highway, but I didn't know where that was. I just kept moving. Every day a little more lost. Until one afternoon, 3 days in, I stumbled across a pair of hikers. They froze when they saw me, dirt-caked, hoodie ripped, eyes sunken. "Are you okay?" one asked. I said, "My family left me. I think they meant to." They didn't laugh, just handed me water and walked me back. Park rangers, shelter, then my Aunt Cassie, my mom's sister. She picked me up, silent the whole ride, made me a sandwich, let me crash on her couch. The next day she said, "Maybe it's best if you stay here for a while. Your parents need time." Time? They left me in the woods, like trash. They never called, never explained. I stopped trying to reach out. I moved out at 18, got a job, changed my number, built my life. For 6 years, nothing. No calls, no birthdays, just static. Until last month, I was restocking shelves when I heard someone say my name. I turned around. It was my mom, Lacey, hair streaked with gray, face creased with worry, eyes full of tears. I hadn't seen her in 6 years, and she just stood there, crying. When I saw her, my mother, standing in that aisle at my job, I didn't recognize her at first. She looked older, smaller, like life had been shrinking her slowly, piece by piece. Her hair was pulled back in a sloppy bun, the way she used to wear it when she forgot we had school picture day. Her eyes were red, and she was clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Eli?" she whispered, and I swear the floor dropped. I froze, like my brain short-circuited trying to process her voice in real time. I hadn't heard it in 6 years. It hit like a punch. Before I could say anything, she broke like all the strength she'd been holding together with duct tape and hope just gave up. She started sobbing, the loud, breathless kind that turns heads and makes strangers uncomfortable. I stepped back instinctively. "You can't be here," I muttered, but she didn't move, just stood there weeping like I was the one who disappeared. People started looking. My manager poked his head out from the break room. I didn't want a scene, so I motioned her outside. We stood near the dumpster out back. The air smelled like rot and fryer oil, but I could breathe there. "I've been looking for you," she said, voice trembling. "I've been trying to find you for years." "Why?" I asked, arms crossed, feet planted. "I needed to know you were okay." I let that hang for a second, just stared at her. "You needed to know?" I said, quiet but sharp. "You could have figured that out 6 years ago, before you left me in the goddamn woods." She flinched, not from the words, but from the tone. I didn't yell. I didn't cuss her out. I just said it like it was. "I didn't want to," she said. "I didn't. Travis said it would only be for a few hours. He said you needed to learn." I laughed. "No joy in it? And you listened?" She nodded like a kid caught stealing. I was scared of him. That stopped me. Scared? Lacey had always seemed more ghost than person. But scared? That was new. "You were scared. So you left me behind?" I asked. "And then what, went home? Watched Netflix? Hoped I learned a valuable lesson?" She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Don't. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I wanted to go back for you." I begged him. "Then why didn't you?" She went quiet, started crying again, said something about how he threatened to leave for good, take Jessie, cut her off, whatever. None of it made sense. None of it mattered. "You could have done something," I said. "Called the cops, told Aunt Cassie, literally anything, but you didn't." "I was weak," she said, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "I thought you'd find your way back, and we'd pretend it never happened. That was the worst part. They really thought I'd just walk out of that forest, dirt-streaked and hungry, and what, thank them?" I looked at her. Really looked. She was shaking. Her hands were red and raw, like she'd been scrubbing something too hard for too long. Her clothes didn't fit right. Everything about her screamed lost. "I'm not the same kid," I said. "Whatever you came here hoping for, it's not here anymore." She nodded slowly. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed to see you." "Why now?" I asked. "Why not last year? Or the one before that?" "Because everything's falling apart," she said, voice cracking. "Jessie barely speaks to me. Travis, he's not well. He drinks. He screams. He lost his business. I live with Cassie now. I'm sorry. I thought I had more time. That made something twist in my chest. Not pity, not forgiveness, just the bitter taste of old truths finally being spoken. So what? I said. You came to apologize now that your life's in pieces because you lost everything and suddenly remembered I exist? She opened her mouth, closed it again. I kept going. You didn't call. You didn't write. You didn't even ask Cassie if I was alive. She wouldn't tell me anything, she said quickly. Because I told her not to, I snapped. Because I didn't want to be found. That landed. She stepped back like I'd shoved her. I understand, she said softly. I know I failed you. No, I said. You left me. You let him leave me. And you watched. And then you did nothing. She nodded. I know. There was a silence between us. Big and loud and cold. She sniffled. Looked at the sky like she was hoping for divine guidance. I just want to talk. Maybe have coffee. Catch up. Just once. Please. Why? I asked. What do you want from me? She didn't answer at first. Then she said, I want to tell you something. About that day. About why he really did it. I blinked. Isn't it because he thought I was weak? Because he wanted to toughen me up? That's part of it, she said. But there's more. Something I never told you. Something about your grandfather. And about what Travis thought he was fixing. I crossed my arms again. That sounds like a story you should have told me 6 years ago. I know. But if you let me explain, I'm not making promises, I cut in. If this is some manipulation, if you're just trying to make him look better, don't waste my time. I'm not, she said quickly. I swear. I just want you to know the truth. Another long pause. Then I said, fine. You've got 1 hour, 1 coffee, and that's it. She looked like she wanted to hug me, but thought better of it. I walked back inside the store without saying goodbye. She stayed outside a while, watching me through the glass. The next day, we met at a local diner. I picked the time. I picked the place. Neutral ground. No surprises. She looked worse. Less makeup. More bags under her eyes. I meant it, I said as I sat down. 1 coffee, 1 hour, I know, she said. And I'll talk fast. And what she told me, it changed everything. Not because it made me forgive her. Not because it made it okay. But because I realized Travis didn't just try to teach me a lesson. He tried to erase a legacy, and I was never supposed to survive it. I stirred my coffee while my mom Lacey sat across from me, shaking hands wrapped tight around her cup, like she was trying to warm more than just her fingers. You said there was something I needed to hear, I told her. So start talking. She nodded, took a breath like she was diving underwater. Your grandfather Travis's daddy used to do things to him. Things that weren't okay. I didn't say anything, just raised an eyebrow. He wasn't just strict, she said. He was cruel. He left Travis in a river once. Said if he wanted to come home, he had to swim. Broke his arm when he was 8 and told him to walk it off. Wouldn't let him cry at his mom's funeral. I took a sip. It tasted like ash. Okay, I said. And Travis never healed from that. He grew up thinking pain was love, that if you weren't hurting, you weren't growing. I leaned back. So that makes what he did to me okay? No, Eli. Her voice cracked. It doesn't excuse it, but it might explain it. That's the thing, I said, my voice calm. Too calm. I'm not here for an explanation. I'm not trying to write a thesis on generational trauma. I was a kid, and he left me alone. On purpose. She looked down, blinking hard. He said he wanted to break the cycle, but the only way he knew how was to repeat it. That's not breaking it, I said. That's just giving it a new name. There was a silence after that. Not awkward. Just heavy. Like the booth had thickened with everything we weren't saying. I should have stopped him, she whispered. I was scared, but that's no excuse. I kept thinking maybe if I just held on, things would go back to normal. But they never did. I nodded slowly. No, they didn't. We sat in that space for a while. Me, calculating whether her pain now was worth giving up my anger. Her, trying to bridge a chasm 6 years wide with a story and lukewarm coffee. Then she said something that shifted everything. He wasn't just trying to make you tough. He thought you were broken. My stomach turned. What? She looked up, eyes glistening. He found your journal, the one you kept on your laptop. He read it. I went cold. I hadn't thought about that journal in years. I used to write in it late at night when I didn't have anyone to talk to. Rants about school, thoughts about feeling out of place, the usual teenage static. But there were parts I kept locked away even from myself. My doubts, my confusion about my identity, my depression. He thought you were weak, she said, soft. Said you needed to be rebuilt from the ground up. Like you were some project he could fix with dirt and fear. I didn't speak. My face didn't move. But inside, something cracked. That wasn't about tough love. That was about control, about disgust, about rewriting me into something else. He said it was for your own good, she continued. That a real man needed to suffer before he could lead. I think he hated the parts of you that reminded him of himself. I exhaled slowly. And you just let him do it. I didn't know how to stop him, she said. I didn't know how to be strong. I figured that out by myself, I muttered. In the woods, starving, alone. She nodded. She didn't fight me, didn't justify, just sat there, taking it. That was the only reason I stayed. That and something else. Something darker that had been quietly growing in my gut for years. Not rage, not revenge, just momentum. The need to do something with all the silence they'd given me. Do you still talk to him? I asked. She shook her head. Not since Jesse and I moved out. He's on his own now. Business is failing. Drinking too much, screaming at the walls. Sounds familiar, she managed a sad smile. Yeah, I looked at her. Really looked. For the first time, I saw someone broken in a way that wasn't my fault. And still, not my responsibility to fix. I'm not coming home, I said. Not for holidays, not for Sunday dinners. That place doesn't exist for me anymore. I understand, she said quietly. But I do want something, I added. She looked up, hopeful. Anything. I want you to tell the truth, to Jesse, to anyone who asks. No more protecting him. No more pretending it was just a mistake. She hesitated. I leaned in. You owe me that much. She nodded. I can do that. We didn't hug. There wasn't a teary embrace or some poetic reconciliation. When we left the diner, she went one way, I went the other. But before she turned the corner, she looked back. I am proud of you, she said. I didn't say it back. Later that night, I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling. The coffee from earlier still buzzed in my veins, but it wasn't the caffeine keeping me up. It was the weight of everything I'd heard. Everything she didn't say. Travis had tried to erase me. Not kill me, no. That would have been too direct. He wanted something slower, subtler. He wanted to scare me into becoming someone else. He wanted to build a new version of me from the ruins. But I didn't break. I grew teeth. And if he thought he could vanish into the background while I just moved on, he didn't know me at all. I didn't want revenge. Not really. I wanted accountability. I wanted truth. I wanted people to know who he was, what he did, the kind of legacy he thought he was passing down like a warped heirloom. So I started digging. He ran a small contracting business back in our hometown. Renovations, drywall, remodeling, the kind of work that kept a reputation alive by word of mouth. That made people trust you with their homes. That meant stories, reviews, comments, paper trails, and I had time. I created a burner account, found the company's website, bland design, stock photos. But the testimonials? That's where I started. The next part? It wasn't about destruction. It was about exposure. And if Travis ever taught me anything, it's that pain leaves marks. And now, it was time to show everyone his. After that talk with my mom, I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Not because I was haunted. I've already made peace with the ghosts. It was something else, something sharper, louder. A need to act. For years, I kept my head down, focused on survival, building a life, staying hidden. But now, I wasn't hiding anymore. And Travis, he'd spent his whole life making people smaller just to feel taller. That had to end. I didn't want to destroy him. I wanted him seen for who he really was. And the only way to do that was to let people see the truth, unfiltered, unpolished, ugly. So I started with the obvious, his business. Travis Shaw Renovation and Design, small town operation, a decent-sized Facebook page, Google listing, even a couple 5-star reviews. But look closer, and cracks showed. Missed deadlines, angry replies to negative comments. And most of all, He couldn't help himself online. Same rage, just digital. I didn't go nuclear. Not yet. Instead, I started asking questions. Posted in a local Facebook group under a fake name, thinking about hiring this guy for some work. Anyone here dealt with him before? Honest experiences appreciated. The comments started rolling in. One woman said he ghosted her halfway through a bathroom remodel. Another said he yelled at her for changing the paint color. A third said he charged double what he quoted and called her high maintenance when she questioned it. All I did was reply with a polite thanks, that helps a lot. No accusations, no drama, just breadcrumbs. Then I left a review. Nothing dramatic, just honest. Wasn't a great experience. Owner was rude and condescending. Felt more like I was being talked down to than helped. It wasn't about slandering him. It was about telling the truth. The kind people didn't say out loud in town because Travis had always walked around like his boots were made of gold. But gold flakes? Especially when the rain hits. After a week, I saw it was working. A few more low star reviews popped up. A couple people messaged me privately, saying they were glad someone spoke up. One said he used to work for Travis and quit after he got screamed at in front of a client. Another said she still had unpaid repairs he never finished. All I did was listen. And underneath that was the simple fact, Travis was unraveling on his own. I was just holding up a mirror. Then I found something better. An old high school friend, Drew, still lived in town. We hadn't talked in years, but I saw he'd liked one of Travis's business posts a while back. I messaged him. He answered quick. Curious, but chill. You still in touch with your dad? He asked. Not really, I said. He paused. Well, he's been kind of a disaster lately. Got into a shouting match at the hardware store last month. Someone recorded it. It's on TikTok. I asked for the link. And there it was. Grainy video. Travis red-faced, cussing out a cashier because they didn't have the exact screws he wanted. The caption? Small-town contractor loses his mind over screws. Yikes. The comment section didn't hold back. A mix of local gossip and pure internet roasting. That was the moment I realized I didn't need to build revenge. I just needed to aim it. Because karma? It doesn't care who you are. It just wants an open door. And I'd left it wide open. While that played out, I kept my distance from Mom. She texted once. Are you okay? I didn't answer. Then she called. Left a voicemail. Her voice was quieter now, almost hollow. He's not handling it well, she said. Business is tanking. He thinks it's just bad luck, but he's spiraling. Drinking earlier. Yelling more. Jessie won't talk to him. She didn't ask me to stop. Just told me what was happening. Like she already knew it wasn't going to. I listened once, then deleted it. A few days later, I got a message from Jessie. It just said, "What are you doing?" I stared at it for a while before responding, "Something he should have seen coming." No reply. I wasn't finished, though. Travis had always used silence as a weapon punishment by absence. Now, I returned the favor with something louder. I started telling my story, quietly. Carefully, Reddit, Medium. A couple of closed Facebook groups for survivors of abuse. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. The story spoke for itself. A teenage boy left in the woods by his family. No warning, no return, just gone. People didn't question the details. They related to the pain. Dozens of comments poured in. Stories that echoed mine. Others just said, "Thank you for saying this. That was the moment I felt it shift." This wasn't just about Travis anymore. It was about every person who got thrown away and told to be grateful for it. Every kid who grew up thinking love meant walking barefoot through fire and smiling while it burned. I wasn't alone anymore, and neither were they. Then the rumors started. My cousin texted me someone I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey, your dad says you're making stuff up, that you're telling lies online to ruin him. Is that true?" I didn't explain. I just sent him a link to the post. "Read the comments," I said. "Then decide." He didn't reply. But 3 days later, he unfollowed Travis's business page. One night, I got another voicemail from Lacey. "He's losing it," she whispered. "Said he's going to make this right. I don't know what that means. Please be careful." I saved that one, not out of fear, but because I wanted to remember it, her voice. That moment, The sound of someone who finally understood she'd handed her child to the fire and hoped he'd come out stronger. Instead, he came out sharper. Then something unexpected happened. Travis texted me. Just one sentence. "You don't get to rewrite history." I stared at it for a long time, then typed my reply. "I'm not rewriting anything. I'm just not letting you bury it anymore." I hit send, then blocked the number. That night, I went to my closet and pulled out the old hatchet, the one from that camping trip. I'd kept it all these years. Rusted, blunt, still wrapped in the same cloth he gave me. I held it in my hand, felt its weight. It was light now. Not because it got smaller, but because I did the growing. I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because he finally knew I'd survived. I didn't hear from Travis again after I blocked his number, but I didn't have to. The fallout didn't come like thunder. It came slow, quiet, like a house shifting on its foundation, groaning under years of weight nobody ever talked about. And when it cracked, it was already too late to fix. The first sign was a message from Aunt Cassie. "Just so you know, your dad's business shut down. Officially. No jobs, no money, no crew. He is living with some guy named Ron now. Ex-contractor, drinks too much. It's bad." I read the text 3 times before I responded. "Thanks for the update." That was it. I didn't ask how Travis was doing, didn't pretend to care. I just acknowledged the news and moved on. Cassie didn't push. Maybe she finally realized I wasn't her fixer anymore. The next blow came from Jesse. It started with another message. Just 3 words, he hit me. That stopped everything. I read it once, then again. No punctuation, no details. Just those 3 words sitting on my screen like they were burning a hole through the glass. I hadn't spoken to Jesse in over a year. Not really. We'd exchanged cold texts, memes, surface-level stuff. But this was different, I called him. He picked up on the 3rd ring. His voice was low, barely above a whisper. "Where are you?" I asked. "Mom's. I left 2 days ago. Is she there?" "Yeah, she's trying." A pause. "Did he—" "It wasn't like a full punch," Jesse cut in, "but it was enough." Silence stretched. "I think you were right," he finally said. "About everything. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired." Later that week, Lacey called me. "We're staying with Cassie for now," she said. "Jesse's safe." I made sure. "Good," I said. There was a pause. Then she added, "He's been asking about you, wants to talk. Really talk." I thought about it. "Okay," I said. "Tell him I'll call this weekend." She sounded surprised, relieved, like she didn't expect me to say yes, but I wasn't doing it for her. Jesse wasn't innocent. He was there when I was left behind, but he was a kid too. 12. Scared. Confused. I'd been angry at him for a long time. Not for what he did, but for what he didn't do. For staying quiet, for moving on like nothing happened. But now I understood something I hadn't before. Silence wasn't always agreement. Sometimes, silence is survival. That weekend, I called Jesse. We talked for an hour. He didn't make excuses, didn't dodge. "I remember that morning," he said. "You came back with the firewood and just stood there. I didn't know what to do. I thought Dad was messing with you. And when he wasn't?" I asked. "I was scared," he said. "Mom tried to say something, but he just snapped. And I looked away. I shouldn't have." "No," I said. "You shouldn't have." He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't cry. He just listened. And for the first time, it felt like a conversation instead of a transaction. Meanwhile, Travis unraveled in full view. Cassie kept feeding me updates not because I asked, but because she needed someone to tell. Her texts came like weather reports. He screamed at a neighbor over parking. Cops came but didn't arrest him. Local hardware store won't serve him anymore. He tried getting a loan to restart the business. Denied. Credits shot. He told people you're spreading lies. But no one believes him now. I didn't reply most of the time. I didn't need to. I wasn't trying to win. I was just watching gravity do what it always does. Then came the letter. Not a text. Not a voicemail. An actual letter, folded in a stained envelope. No return address. It was from Travis. The handwriting was tight, jagged, like every word was dragged across the page. "I lost everything," I hope you're happy. You poisoned people against me, turned your brother, your mother. All because I tried to make you strong. You were soft. Still are. But now you've got the whole town thinking you're some kind of victim. You think that makes you powerful? That makes you weak. You think truth is justice, but all you've done is burn the house down. You'll see. No apology, no ownership, just blame, rage, and a final warning dressed like a prophecy. I folded the letter and dropped it in the trash. Didn't burn it, didn't keep it, let it rot like him. A week later, Jesse texted me something that almost broke me. I found your journal. The old one. On your laptop. I read it. I'm sorry. I felt my chest tighten. You didn't have to do that, I replied. I know, he said, but I wanted to know you better, and I'm sorry I didn't see you before. There was no fixing what had happened, but there was honesty now, and that was something. As spring crept in, I started running again. Not away. Not like before. Just around the neighborhood. Fresh air. Headphones. Peace. One morning, I stopped by a little coffee shop near my apartment. Familiar barista. Light music. I ordered a black coffee, no room, and while I waited, I pulled out my phone. No texts from Mom. No missed calls from Jesse. No voicemails from ghosts. Just a clean screen. Quiet. Still. That's when I realized something. I wasn't waiting anymore for answers, for apologies, for redemption that was never going to come. I wasn't angry either, not really. Just done. Sometimes people think revenge means destroying the person who hurt you, but that's not it. Revenge is just truth spoken loud enough that the lies can't breathe anymore. And mine? It didn't come with fire or fists. It came with silence, distance, and a mirror too clean to hide in. It's been 3 months since I got that last letter from Travis. 3 months since I heard his voice. Since his name showed up on my screen. Since he even tried. And maybe that's the real ending. Not the confrontation. Not the apology that never came, but the silence that finally stayed. Life moved on. And so did I. But not in the dramatic, burn all down and rise from the ashes kind of way. More like a gentle tide pulling me into a different shore. No flames, just distance. And air I could finally breathe. Jesse started therapy. Said he wanted to figure himself out before he tried to fix anything with me. Smart move. He still texts sometimes, mostly random stuff. A photo of his new sketchbook. A meme. One night, he sent a voice note saying, "Thanks for not giving up on me completely." I didn't play it right away. But when I did, I just replied with, "I'm glad you're trying." That's all it needed to be. Lacey got a job at a grocery store. Night shifts. Said she prefers the quiet. She called last week. Didn't ask for anything. Just wanted to tell me she was proud. Said she watched one of my stories online and cried the whole time. I let her talk. I didn't say much, but I didn't hang up either. Maybe that's growth. Maybe it's just practice. As for Travis, I don't know where he is now. Last I heard, he left town. Didn't tell anyone. No forwarding address, no goodbye. Just gone. People talk, though. Small towns always echo. Cassie texted me a rumor. He's somewhere upstate, working part-time at a scrapyard. Keeps to himself. No one knows for sure, and I'm not checking. He used to take up so much space in my head. Every memory had his voice in the background, sharp, judgmental, measuring. But now, I barely hear it anymore. That's the real revenge. Living a life where his name doesn't matter. Where his absence is finally just that absence. The journal Jesse found? I thought about deleting it. Too many scars on those pages. Old shadows. But I didn't. Instead, I printed it. Bound it. Not to publish. Not to share. Just to hold. To remind myself I made it through. With nothing but a dull hatchet, a granola bar, and the will to walk forward. I still have the hatchet, by the way. It's on a shelf in my closet now. Rusted. Blunt. Useless, really. But I keep it. Not as a weapon. Not as a trophy. As a reminder of what it meant to be 16 and forgotten and still come back from it stronger than the people who left. People think healing is this big dramatic thing. That it means calling your abuser out in public, burning bridges, blocking numbers like a ceremony. And sure, sometimes it is. But for me, healing was quieter than that. It was learning how to say no without shaking, how to answer the phone without flinching, how to look in the mirror and not see what he tried to carve into me. It was walking through a forest again, same kind of trees, same silence, but not feeling small anymore. That's what power looks like. Not rage, not revenge, just not needing them anymore. I told my story. People listened. Some cried, some shared their own. Others didn't believe me, and that's okay. Truth doesn't need to convince anyone to exist. It just is. Like the woods, like the silence, like me. The last time I saw my reflection clearly, it wasn't in a mirror. It was in a window at night, just after closing at work. Empty store, lights low, everything quiet. I looked older, stronger, but not hard. Just real. No anger in my eyes, no heat behind my jaw. Just a person who lived through something and kept living. And if that's all I ever become, that's enough. You don't owe the fire a thank you for surviving it. You don't owe the people who left you in the dark a second chance just because they knocked later. Sometimes walking away isn't bitter, it's sacred. And you don't owe anyone the sound of your footsteps as you go. So yeah, that's it. That's the story. A boy left behind, a man who came back different, and a past that finally stopped following me home. Story 2, my mother shouted and grabbed the paper out of my hands after I failed my exam. The worst mistake I've ever made in my life is you. I wish I had aborted you every day. All of my desires have been ruined by you. My father didn't even make an effort to protect me. He just stated, giving me that icy, repulsed expression. What keeps you here? You will never be anything. As they enumerated all the reasons they detested me, I stood there trembling. I was resolved not to return, so I stepped out at last, slamming the door behind me. My dad left me a tearful message 5 years later. Well, I'm not really sure how to begin this without coming out as overly dramatic, but whatever. I think folks on this site would truly understand how twisted up this is, so I just need to get it out someplace. My mom and I have always had a strange connection, but that day was really special. In any case, this all began when I was 18 and still living at home a few years ago. I grew up knowing that my mother wasn't the friendliest person. She did, after all, have her good days. She would occasionally bring my favorite food or something, but generally she simply pretended to be irritated by my presence. My father was always more of an incidental figure. Like Dad would sigh or murmur something about duty while he sat at the table reading his phone, hardly glancing up unless my mom started ranting about something. Therefore, we weren't like those families that discussed feelings or had movie evenings. My parents behaved as though I were a constant bother, but whatever. I simply tried not to annoy them by keeping my head down. Anyway, I already knew the exam wasn't going well when I returned from school. To be honest, I didn't want to even look at the grade. I was standing in the kitchen, trying to think of a way to inform them that I blew it, with my phone in one hand and my exam paper in the other. My mother was already feeling irritable. She kept scrubbing the countertops like she was upset about the crumbs, so I knew, ignoring me completely. Dad was perhaps reading the news or doom-scrolling on his laptop while seeming ignorance of the stress. She quickly grabbed the paper from me as if she had been waiting for me to make a mistake, and that's what bothers me. She simply snatched it and began to run off before I could say more than 2 words, not even checking the grade itself, going directly to the line where she referred to me as a letdown. As if I hadn't tried. She muttered the typical things about my lethargic attitude and squandered money. It's not like I didn't study, I just wanted to get something out. However, she simply raised her voice and waved the paper at me. She entered my personal space, got near enough for me to smell her perfume, and began to enumerate all the things I had wrecked, beginning with the fact that I had forced her to have me. She seemed to have been preparing this speech for years. Then she stated it really bluntly. The greatest error of her life was me. She wished she had aborted me every single day. I had destroyed all she had ever desired. She didn't even shout when she said it. She spoke in a bland tone, simply chilly. I remained still. I was at a loss for what to do. My dad merely gazed at me with a nasty expression when I glanced at him, made no attempt to stop her. "Why are you still here?" he said. "You will never be anything." Then he just resumed his scrolling. He simply turned his head away, even though I wanted him to say anything. She continued by describing her desire to travel. Now, take a peek at her. Confined to this home with a boy who is incapable of passing even a simple test. She mentioned things from many years ago, like when I was 6 years old and shattered a vase, or when I was placed in detention in ninth school, as though she had been maintaining a running list. She said that I was a burden, selfish, and sluggish, and that she ought to have followed her brother's advice to avoid having children. Dad said that I had always been troublesome, and that I was similar to my mother's brother, and that I never took responsibility and always caused trouble. He said that I would never be able to live on my own and that I was only using them for food and a home, and I don't know, I suddenly realized something. My mother smacked my hand away as I attempted to reclaim the paper. "Stop talking to me like that," I replied. She simply laughed, though. I declared that I would not just stand there and accept it. She then confronted me once again, threatening to leave and claiming that I would return in a week, pleading for money. I simply lost it at that moment. I grabbed my already cracked phone and hurled it against the wall. It hit the floor after bouncing. The battery cover is flying off. My dad moved in front of the door as I turned to go, crossed arms. He warned me that unless I cleaned up my mess, I wouldn't be allowed to leave. The phone and the havoc I had caused in their lives, that is. He staggered as I shoved past him, but he didn't follow. "I had best not return," my mother shouted. I went outside and the door was slammed. Even though I could still hear her screaming, I continued to move. I had no idea where I was heading. My money and the clothing I was wearing were my only genuine plans. I was simply strolling along my neighborhood as night fell, without even considering what may come next. I sent my friend Atlas a text message asking if I could sleep at your place tonight. Don't inquire. I had no desire to explain. Not quite yet. I spent some time sitting on the curb, attempting to determine if I was truly free or whether I had just made the worst decision of my life. Down the block, I could still see the lights of my former home. Through the open window, Mom's voice reverberated. There was no turning back, not after that. The thing is this. My mother has always held me responsible for her life's failure to go as planned. Before I was born, Mother had all these ambitions, but her family pressured her to get married and raise a moral child. That was something she never recovered from. And whenever she felt trapped, she vented to me. My father just followed the course of action that would maintain harmony. However, he secretly hated me as well as I served as a reminder that he wasn't meeting his own standards. It had nothing to do with me failing an exam. They needed someone to place the blame on. I stayed there for a long, gazing at pictures from when things were normal, if they ever were, and reading through my old texts. My hands continued to shake not from fear, but from sheer anger. I had a strange sensation of relief, as if I had finally broken through something. But I didn't weep. I was aware that I couldn't simply return the next day and act as though nothing had happened. Because I was their child, I wasn't going to put up with them treating me like garbage any longer. That's how I left home then. No grandiose farewell. Don't use packing boxes. It was only me, my wallet, and a barely functional phone. I'm not going back, but I'm not sure what will happen next. Even if I had to spend a month sleeping on Atlas's floor, I don't care. It's not under their roof, at least. I already know I'd regret remaining, but I'm not sure if I'll regret it. That's about all for now. To be honest, I simply needed to get this off my chest, but I'll update if something crazy occurs. You understand if you have experienced anything similar. If not, I'm not sure. Perhaps simply give your child a hug or something. One update. I honestly didn't think I would publish an update, but after the last one, I received a few messages. And to be honest, I'm still furious. Why not then? Just in case you missed the first section. After I failed an exam, my mother remarked she wished she had aborted me. My father only sat there. Without turning around, I marched out and slammed the door. Yes, it is just as awful as it seems. In any case, this is what transpired. The first strange thing that struck me was how silent Atlas was when I arrived. I sent him a text from the sidewalk. He made no inquiries and just returned his address. Fortunately, his mother wasn't present when I arrived. I simply collapsed on the sofa. Call. Near death. No charger. In any case, for over an hour, I just read and reread the texts that kept rolling in from my mom while staring at the ceiling. At first, she was the only one shouting. Then she said, "Good luck on the streets, and I'd regret this." It then devolved into whining about how I owed her for everything she had ever done for me and how I had left my room in disarray. She promised to sell my belongings. After glancing over, Atlas instructed me to muffle her. So I did. I woke up the following morning before everyone else's phones died. I didn't really think about it, so I simply sat there and listened to the birds outside, simply exhausted. When an Atlas mom entered, she noticed me. She only gave a nod, took out a piece of bread, didn't inquire. To be honest, that was the nicest thing about no one asking questions. At school, everyone saw that I wasn't heading home. Although a few of them left remarks, no one made a genuine attempt to interfere in my affairs. I kept my head down, trying to think of what I should do next. This is when things became annoying. By tagging me in postings about ungrateful kids and how parents are never appreciated, my mom began to blow up my social media accounts. She would publish these lengthy tirades, clearly directed at me. Half of them aren't even about me. Our family members began emailing me with questions like, "What happened? Is your mother doing well? Why do you act like I'm the bad guy and make her so angry?" She told me she hoped I had never been born, and I merely replied with a snapshot of the text. After that, a few of them stopped texting. According to a few of aunts, that's exactly how she gets upset. Don't be upset about it, correct? Cool, regards. My father never sent an SMS, not once. My mom did all the ranting as he sat there in the background. He does it that way. It has always been. I believe he used to be more laid back, but each year he has become colder. He never gives a damn about what's happening in the house. He only cares about what people think of him. Unless it made him look bad, he didn't care what I did. My mother has always been resentful. She desired to move to the city and live there. Go. Live her own life. She was pressured by her family to have me young. That was something she never forgot. She used to say that she would be living her best life if it weren't for me. Not confined to the suburbs, preparing meals for unappreciative people. After several days, I came to the conclusion that I couldn't simply wait for them to relax, because they wouldn't. I went into school and started rearranging things using the computers in the library. First of all, because I know my mom, who is extremely nosy, I changed every password I could think of. I ensured she couldn't access my social media accounts. Nothing. I grabbed my ID from my old backpack. Thank God I kept it on me and set up a new bank account. I didn't have much in there, but at least it was mine. I sent a group chat to my close friends, just saying if my parents reached out, don't give them anything. Not my location, not who I was with. Some of them thought I was being dramatic, but I was done caring what anyone thought. Here's what really pissed me off, though. About a week after I left, my mom called Atlas' house. His mom picked up and I could hear her from the kitchen. My mom was crying, saying I was out of control. She was scared for my safety. Could I please come home? She said I had mental health issues, that I needed her, that she was worried. I do something to myself. Atlas. Mom just handed me the phone and left the room. I told my mom I wasn't coming back, and she immediately dropped the tears and started yelling again about how I was embarrassing her, how the neighbors were asking questions, how I was ruining everything. She said if I didn't come home by Friday, she'd cut me off and sell all my stuff. I said, do it. She hung up. That's when I decided I'm not letting her win. I'm not going to sit around feeling sorry for myself while she ruins my name to everyone who will listen if she's going to play dirty. So am I. I started with the stuff I knew would hit hardest. My parents are obsessed with their image, with family gatherings, with looking like the perfect family. Every year my mom hosts these big get-togethers, posts a million photos, brags about her wonderful life and how proud she is of her son. All fake, obviously. I went on her main social and commented on one of her public posts. Just a simple, maybe try being nicer to your kid next time. She deleted it in 5 minutes. I messaged a few cousins, told them the real story. Sent screenshots, some believed me, some didn't. But at least the truth was out. Then I started thinking bigger. My parents had always managed all the family finances. I knew they were tight on money, even though they pretended everything was fine. My dad once asked me to sign some forms for college stuff, but I never did. I knew they needed me to co-sign on a loan, probably because their credit was trash. So when they started texting me about important paperwork and how it would help the family, I just ignored them. I knew if I signed, they'd rack up debt in my name and leave me to deal with it. No way. They started getting desperate. My mom threatened to call the cops and say I'd stolen from them, but she never did. I told her if she tried, I'd post every message she ever sent me. Every voicemail, every screenshot. I sent her a photo of my ID and my new address, not Atlas's. I wasn't dumb, just to prove I was fine and not hiding. She didn't reply. Dad finally texted after like a month, just a short, "We need to discuss." I told him if it was about money, forget it. He suggested I was being ungrateful, that family sacrifices for each other. I said, "Didn't seem like you sacrificed much but your self-respect." He blocked me. Here's the bit that made me know they were truly worried. One of my aunts messaged me stating my parents were arguing all the time. Now my dad was sleeping in the guest room. My mom was telling everyone I was missing and needed help. My cousin, Paisley, said, "My mom attempted to persuade her to talk me into going home, but Paisley merely told her I wasn't interested in false families." Family group conversations turned bizarre. People stopped asking my parents to events. I saved every dime, performed odd jobs, and kept my head down. When my parents sought to sell my old belongings, they just had shirts and other useless items. They claimed that my laptop was family property when they phoned about it. I advised them to hold on to it. I had cleaned everything already. Control, not money, was what they truly desired. I thus ensured that they couldn't reach me. I altered all of my key information, set up mail forwarding, and made sure they couldn't access anything associated with my name. As a precaution, I even placed alerts on my accounts and phoned the credit bureaus. I didn't want to take any chances. The fallout was peculiar. At school, I began to run across folks who had heard that I was having problems or had gone off the tracks. I dismissed it with a simple laugh. I don't care that some people thought I was a jerk for going public. I want the truth about what transpired to be known. My parents want everyone to believe that they are victims and that their son is simply misbehaving. I'm not playing that game, though. I'm refusing to allow them to dictate the plot. I suppose you might say that I went nuclear. I didn't violate any laws. There was nothing shady I did. I just ensured that they could no longer utilize me for their own purposes. I blocked them from interfering with my life in any manner. I threatened to go public if they did anything. They no longer frighten me. I've been trying to figure things out for a time now. However, I am aware of their pain. Cousins tell me they're barely making ends meet. Now that individuals are aware of the reality, they are unable to refinance the property, obtain loans, or have their ideal family meals. My father's pride has been crushed. My mother's reputation has been ruined. I'm making sure they're paying to update at last if they wanted me to make up for their disappointment. Even though it has been years since I last posted, I swear that things in my life were getting in the way, and I didn't want to think about my parents at all. I left home, remained absent. I bounced about a little, but I think I did well. Not flawless, not very good, but passable. I kept my head down and performed what I had to do. I muted their numbers but never blocked them. My mom would occasionally send me an odd text message regarding the holidays. As if I should care, my dad sent me a link to a news article. I never once answered. The night I left, I said what I had to say, and I meant it. Last month, the strangest thing happened. When my phone chimed with a voicemail, I was in my kitchen preparing noodles, literally just boiling water. I noticed it was my dad's number when I looked at the screen. I played it even though I could hardly recall his voice anymore. His heavy breathing was audible to me, as if he had been weeping. Not only feigned tears for show, he apologized, said he needed to talk to me, and mentioned certain things he wanted me to know. And may I give him another call? His voice broke. He sounded far older than I could now recall. It seemed a bit unreal. For several hours, I left the note there. I spent my day doing laundry, watching YouTube, and scrolling through TikTok. I listened to the message again every few minutes to be sure I hadn't missed anything. I didn't give him a call. Atlas responded with a meme when I texted him, saying, "Hey dude, guess who left me a crying voicemail? I suppose that's how we handle things these days." My mother left me another message the next day. She was angry but not weeping, said that I was wrecking their lives and that I was being petty, that I would regret not calling them back right away. I removed it. I shared a snapshot of my dad's missed call to my cousin Paisley, if you recall from earlier. "Yeah, things are getting bad over there," she remarked. "Don't let them make you feel bad." She claimed that although my mother was telling everyone that I had left them, no one was really buying it anymore. Here's the backstory on why their situation was going awry. Just in case someone believes that I'm doing this to make up for something, like karma. My parents' financial condition significantly worsened after I left. My dad made 3 or so attempts to refinance the house, but I put alerts on my credit since I wouldn't co-sign anything. The banks continued to turn them away. They owed money. Not much, but enough to make things tight due to late payments. No one wanted to go following my mom's attempts to organize family vacations. I was honest about what transpired. My dad became strangely lonely. His own brother also stopped visiting. People must have become weary of the theatrics. They attempted to access my accounts, but they were unable to do so since I had made all the changes. They were consumed by the loss of control. Paisley informed me that their home was collapsing. Literally, a broken dishwasher, a leaking roof, etc. My mother was ashamed and didn't want to tell anyone. Sometimes it only became worse because my dad isn't very handy and attempted to fix things himself. They began fighting more like yelling altercations that could be heard from the backyard. I suppose some neighbors were afraid it would get physical and called the police once, but nothing happened. More slammed doors and more shouting. I chose to call my dad again after hearing these voicemails, primarily to hear his response. I wasn't even anxious. I was just wondering. The first ring caught his attention. For a moment, he simply inhaled into the telephone. Then he began to speak. He claimed that they had nowhere to go, that they were losing the house, and that he needed my assistance. He expressed regret, that he ought to have protected me and never allowed my mother to say those things. He requested that we have a single meeting so that we could discuss some paperwork. I told him directly, "Ignore this if it's about money. Nothing will be signed by me. I'm not going to save you," he said. That isn't the point. But he was lying, and I knew it. As though you were our only kid, he attempted to guilt me. Family members are meant to support one another. You didn't assist me when I needed it, I merely stated. It's your turn to handle the consequences now. He fell silent. In the background, I could hear my mother screaming for him to hand her the phone. I ended the call. I opened a letter that appeared official when it arrived in the mail a few days later. I was asked to co-sign a loan from their bank. They must have recorded my information in the hopes that I would simply sign anything they gave. Please do not get in touch with me again. I snapped a picture of the letter and submitted it to the bank's general email. My parents' debts are not my responsibility. I then texted the extended family as a group. Just a brief note and a screen grab of the letter. It seems like my folks are attempting to obtain loans in my name that I do not desire. Don't question me about it again, please. Paisley gave a thumbs up in return. No one followed up with me, although some folks sent nothing. I suppose that's when I realized they truly had no other alternatives, not only acting. Rumor had it that the bank had finally foreclosed on the residence. My parents relocated to a modest apartment on the outskirts of the city. My mother contacted me again saying that I had wrecked everything. She hoped I was content. I simply blocked her. I had no feelings at all. Just finished. These days, I occasionally run across my dad when strolling around town or at the grocery store. He seemed worn out. He occasionally attempts to wave, but I simply continue to move. I'm not resentful. I simply don't give a damn anymore. I took the necessary action. I broke them first, even though they tried to break me. Whatever it means, I'm the bad guy in their tale. At least the child I attempted to ruin isn't the one wailing on voicemails, pleading for assistance. I don't owe them anything, even though I know some people may argue that I should forgive them or that family is important. They now got to live with the decisions they made. I'm going on. I now have a life of my own. I will not turn around. Story 3. I sat silently as my mother drove us home after I broke my arm during football practice. She giggled and phoned her pal. He is a burden. I wish his birth had never occurred. I would at last be content if he weren't here. Instead of being forced to live with his worthless father, I might have married someone prosperous. Her companion gave a snort. He will become, like him, a pitiful failure. After packing my belongings with my undamaged arm, I vanished that evening. She claims she made a mistake and won't stop calling 4 years later. This is one of those stories that has been lingering in my mind for a long time, I suppose. I honestly don't know what to do with it anymore, so I'm just throwing it here. Go ahead and judge me if you want to. However, I must get this off my chest. So, yes, it began with a very little and arbitrary thing. That day, I detected a strange odor coming from my mom's automobile. As if to hide the dog or anything, she sprayed a cheap perfume, but it just combined to exacerbate the situation. I have no idea why, but that remained in my memory. In any case, I was at football practice after school on a Thursday. Regular drills, not even a game. That week, my mom and I had been at odds. Nothing like dumb things. The lawn was never mowed on schedule because of her ranting about my grades and pretending like my dad was to blame. In any case, she was often tense, but the previous weekend's visit with her friend Brenda made it worse. She would become really passive-aggressive, leaving the dishes for me and simply shouting things loud enough for everyone to hear. So I knew. So, yes, I land strangely during this tackling practice. When I hear that, my arm just jerks, and I realize that's not right. It's not as it is in films. Nothing screamed out of me. As the coach yelled out, I simply sat there and began muttering curses. They phoned and iced it. It seemed weird, so my mom and I simply sat there waiting, still in my gear, without even moving my fingers. She honks as she pulls up without even getting out of the car. As I approach, I'm clutching my arm and trying not to seem foolish. She hardly gives me a glance before leaving. "Lorenzo, you had best not break anything. I have to go to the store," as if I deliberately did it. Just calm on the drive home. I observe the traffic with my head against the glass. I can't even divert myself because my phone is in my luggage. I ask whether we're stopping at urgent care, and she yells. She's driving quickly, changing lanes every 2 seconds. Right now, I don't have time for this. In the morning, we'll see how things stand. She interrupts me before I can finish. I need to see a doctor. She claims to be aware of actual pain and that I usually exaggerate. I don't. I stop talking. Then her phone rings. As she always does, she plugs it into the vehicle, as if she wants everyone to hear what she has to say. Brenda's voice reaches my ears. She laughs, but it always sounds artificial. Mom simply begins to talk over me as if I weren't there. You know I'm serious. She simply leaves even though I'm right next to her. My foolish boy did something you wouldn't believe. He is a burden. To be honest, I wish he hadn't been. She chuckles as if it were a joke. My jaw tightens, yet all I do is look out the window. Brenda is like that. He is just like his father, useless. My mother claims that I would be content if he didn't exist. Instead of being trapped with his useless dad and his deadbeat genes, I could have married someone who truly made a difference in the world. I may not have heard everything. I simply remember this strange quiet after, so perhaps I slept off for a moment. After that, Brenda begins to talk about how she always knew I would fail. Instead of discussing her own child in the car with her, Mom is giggling as if she were sharing a meme or something. I recall thinking, is this real? As I sat there with my arm aching. For example, am I mishearing or am I genuinely hearing this? However, it continued. They discussed money and how my dad's bills are never paid on time, how my expenses for education and sports are excessive, how she longs to just begin anew. I remained silent. I simply sat there and listened to the stoplights pass. Once we entered the driveway, "Go get the groceries from the back," she replies, hanging up and turning to face me. She acts as if nothing occurred, and I'm still wearing my jersey with my arm swelled. She's inside when I exit and open the rear. The door behind her slammed. She yells from the kitchen as I drop one of the bags on the walkway after grabbing the others with my good arm. Don't be so awkward. I can't really recall every detail of what transpired after that. I went to my room, took a seat, and spent some time just looking at my phone. My father didn't respond when I texted him. My mom spends like she's on a reality show, so he always has to take on extra shifts and works late. She was laughing with my sister while watching a show in the living room, as if nothing had happened. Tiffany, my younger sister, just goes along with whatever is going on because she's constantly trying to win her mother's approval. With a throbbing arm, I lay on my bed. I was unable to concentrate as I browsed through random content on my phone. I tried to convince myself that perhaps I had misunderstood by mentally reliving the car ride. Perhaps she was making a joke. Who even makes jokes like that, though? This is not the first time she has made a mistake in her speech. In 8th grade, she got upset with me over a report card, threw my backpack against the wall, and threatened to make me like my dad if I didn't get my act together. She has consistently placed the blame for everything money, the house, her career, and the course of her life on him. She used to tell me about the wealthy man she dated in college, how choosing him instead could have improved her life. Comparing us to those who have more is her obsession. like it's some competition. I suppose she reasoned that she would feel larger or something if she made us feel small. I tried to sleep that night, but my arm hurt too much. Over the TV remote, I could hear her and Tiffany fighting. My mother then slammed her. I got up, went to the bathroom, tried to see if my arm was broken for real, but it was already turning purple and I couldn't move my wrist. I went back to my room, sat at my desk, and just started packing my backpack. I took some clothes, my charger, some cash I'd been saving from Christmas. My old laptop, I didn't even think about it, just kept moving. I grabbed my ID and my phone, left everything else. I didn't even make a plan, I just knew I wasn't going to wake up in that house again. I wrote a note on a sticky. Just said, "You got your wish." I left it on her bathroom mirror. I snuck out through the back, slipped out the gate, and just started walking. I didn't even look back. I passed by the neighbor's house, heard their dog barking, and just kept walking. I didn't know where I was going, but I wasn't staying. I wasn't going to let her keep going like nothing happened. If you want to know what happened next, maybe I'll post again. I'm just tired of acting like this crap is normal anyway. One update. So yeah, I didn't actually plan on doing an update, but I keep getting DMs and comments asking what happened. So whatever. Here's part 2. I still remember the weirdest thing about that first night was how quiet it was outside. Like you could actually hear the sprinklers from 3 houses over. I walked for a while. No idea where I was going, just kept checking the time on my phone and scrolling through contacts. Almost called. My dad didn't just wandered. Ended up texting Parker because he was the only one who'd ever actually noticed when stuff at home was off. I didn't give him details, just said I needed a place to crash. He sent me an address and said his parents wouldn't care for a night or two. I showed up. He just let me in through the garage. No questions asked. His house always felt different. Like people actually talked to each other. Not all fake, not all walking on eggshells. Slept on the old couch in their rec room. Used my backpack as a pillow. My arm was killing me. But at least I wasn't listening to my mom yelling at my dad about bills or Tiffany whining about Wi-Fi speed or whatever. Parker's little brother came in at like 6 a.m. for cereal, saw me, just shrugged and turned on YouTube. Parker's mom asked what happened when she saw my arm. I told her I fell at practice. She said I should get it checked out. And when she saw how swollen it was, she basically stated she was taking me to urgent care. Didn't even ask whether my mom knew. The nurse made some joke about how I should have came in the night before, and I simply nodded since I didn't want to go into it. They placed me in a cast and sent me back out. Parker's mom texted my mom, but I assumed she never answered, so I just stayed at their apartment a couple more days. Parker didn't press, but when I told him what my mom said, he didn't even appear startled. The only thing he said was, "That's rough, but you're not going back, right?" No, I wasn't. I started looking for methods to escape out. For real. Parker's parents said I could spend a week, maybe 2, but they couldn't keep me forever. I got it. Didn't blame them. I messaged my father. I needed to see him alone, I told him. He came to get me, waited until we were halfway across town before asking any questions. He drove slowly all the time, as if he was afraid of making a mistake. I filled him in on every detail of what transpired in the automobile that evening. He simply gazed at the street, remained silent for around 5 minutes. At last, he leaves. "You know your mom doesn't plan to act that way, but sometimes she does." "She meant it," I told him. He didn't dispute he never did. That must have been the issue. "That's what my mother always detested about him. Why can't you stand up for yourself?" she would ask. "Lorenzo never listens," which makes sense. You're excessively sensitive. My dad is simply exhausted, not stupid. He offered to help me locate an apartment and gave me some money, but he requested me not to make things more difficult for Tiffany. I vowed not to involve her in it. I hopped around a little. After spending a few weeks at Parker's, the first spent a few days with Aaron, an old colleague who lived close to the train station. Here and there, I took a few shifts, primarily moving and cleaning. As long as I accomplished anything, no one gave a damn whether I was wearing a cast. I lowered my head. Live, cheap ramen, sandwiches from the petrol station, etc. I looked at my mother's Facebook page. She posted as if nothing had occurred. Tiffany's strong coffee cups are only shown in pictures of her dancing. Stupid things. My dad claimed to have finally located a reasonably priced rental property. Though it was only a room, it was still preferable to nothing. I paid cash and moved in. Don't smoke inside and don't create noise after midnight, the place's owner just told me. That was the end of it. I barely completed my high school education online because it was forbidden to attend my previous institution. Despite my mom's repeated attempts to contact, she never apologized. I just sent a message asking when you will be returning home. You look foolish. People are posing inquiries. I paid her no attention. Most days I was simply numb, not really furious. Parker then informed me that my dad had given me ideas and that my mom had been telling people that I was lazy and that I had fled to get attention. Everyone but herself was to blame. It was crazy when she informed my grandmother that I was a drug user. My grandmother phoned to check on me. I had just stated that I was all right. I have a regimen that consists of working, eating, sleeping, and repeating. The problem is that I began to hear from my dad more frequently. He would be late with his calls, following my mother's bedtime. Just to make sure, I could see that he was growing less afraid but also more exhausted. My mom was spending more, he informed me, like much more than previously. She began making sporadic internet purchases, registering for fresh subscriptions, discussing purchasing a new vehicle. According to my dad, the bills were becoming unmanageable. He sounded frightened, asked for advice. I told him that, for once, he should look after himself rather than her. I began assisting him with paperwork, such as opening his own bank account and transferring funds to prevent her from embezzling his money. I used his phone for everything, demonstrated to him how to check his equilibrium, how to monitor expenditures. My mother became irate. After learning, she smacked my dad during a fight. She shoved him and locked herself in the bedroom when he urged her to stop. He told me over the phone that he was at his breaking point. Don't, I told him. He wanted to spend some time with me. Yes, I said, but only if he was serious about leaving and not simply hiding for the night. A week later, he moved in with me. He began eating and sleeping better. Once more, I saw him genuinely giggling at pointless YouTube videos. For the first time in ages, my mom blamed him for everything falling apart in about 20 texts per day. She began phoning my grandmother, sobbing as she described how he had ruined her life and abandoned her. How unappreciative I was. It's our fault, she said Tiffany. We deceived her, so she had to sell things. Tiffany called to tell me that my mother was very upset and wanted to know why I detested her. I informed Tiffany that, although I didn't, I had no intention of returning. My father began discussing divorce. I offered to help if he wanted it without pressuring him. He sent a file. My mother lost it, began knocking on my door and arriving at my house. I told her to go. She gave me a slap. Her hand was pushed away by me. The door was slammed. She made one police call. My dad stole from her, she said. When the police arrived and began questioning him, my dad had all of his documents. They simply instructed her to stop bothering us. Then she began to spin out of control. Credit was taken away from her. Unpaid auto loans. She had to sell her belongings online. I came across her pleading for bill assistance on a neighborhood community. She sent me another message, claimed that I would regret ruining her. I didn't respond. I began assisting my father in organizing his belongings and ensuring his safety. We disconnected her from everything. Nothing, no accounts, no financial access. Tiffany started living with friends when she attempted to guilt trip her. More. A friend told me that when Brenda repeatedly requested for money, she stopped communicating with my mother. I won't tell lies. Seeing her eventually clean up the debris gave me a little sense of pleasure. Years of pointing the finger at others. She had to work things out on her own now. My father began to regain his life. He gained new acquaintances, went out more, acquired a dog as well. I continued to work and save money, organizing my own future move. My mother sent a final message. She threatened to hold me accountable. She was blocked by me. When you really stand up, it's amazing how quickly things can change. I'm not finished yet, not even close. However, I felt like I was truly winning for the first time. I don't know whether you think I went too far. She was deserving of every moment. If you want to know what transpired when she attempted to crawl back, let me know. The situation became much more chaotic. At last, update. I thus didn't anticipate this level of investment. NGL, while some of you are enthusiastic about the direct messages, I secretly think that it helps me feel less weird to watch strangers grasp it. In any case, people kept requesting this section. This is what transpired. After things went south, my mother began to lose her mind. The first indication that something was wrong was when my phone began to vibrate at strange times, like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm not talking about random spam, but my mom only ever called to shout at me or make demands. It was strange enough that her number kept popping up on my phone. I unblocked her after blocking her. Blocked once more. Didn't matter. Different numbers would be used by her. Tiffany was even persuaded to call a couple of times. Sincerely, what was she going to say that I hadn't heard before, so I initially chose to disregard it. Parker then emails me a screen grab from our previous neighborhood group conversation. As you can see, my mom is genuinely in need of assistance after posting about losing her car and seeking for tips on dealing with short-term setbacks. I nearly laughed. In other words, she missed too many payments on her automobile, which led to the loss of her house. She was unable to keep up because my dad, who had finally grown up, quit paying her expenses. Mom had to pawn a lot of her valuables, Tiffany told me. I even attempted to sell my old video games, but it was going to be difficult. Brenda had also left. Apparently, money was the reason for their altercation. My mother went on Facebook to complain about phony friends, and Brenda banned her from everything. My mother's problem is that she always felt she was too wonderful for everyone, as if she had accidentally become stranded in our town. She would say things like, "I deserve more, and I could have had a better life if I hadn't settled." It's as if she never did anything wrong. She would disparage others behind their backs, and then seem to be shocked when no one wanted to assist her. All of it quickly caught up with her. I won't even pretend to feel sorry for myself. I hoped she would sense it. I then began to lean closer. I would speak with Tiffany and tell her the truth whenever she attempted to guilt-trip her about our dad leaving her. Remember what happened? Just the facts, not in a bad way. My mother began apologizing in her voicemails. She was wrong. Things became unmanageable, but she'd change things up. All the sobbing about missing would be in one message. Another would be upset, accusing me of ruining her life and wondering how I could have done this to my own mother. On one occasion, my dad really laughed when I played the voicemails for him. He never once made fun of her. I told him she was simply angry. She became uncontrollable. He concurred. She began texting Tiffany trying to reach me, but I never returned any of her calls. "I need aid. Like your brother should contact me. I'm ill." Tiffany would take screenshots of everything and forward them to me. My mother once knocked on my door repeatedly and yelled that she needed to chat when she arrived at my house. I instructed her to go and open the door. She attempted to shove past me. She was blocked by me. She gave me a harsher smack than before, but I remained still. "You're not coming in," I said. She yelled at me, saying that I was her son and that she had erred. I just told her, though, "You expressed your desire that I had never been born." She made an effort to refute it. Needless to say, I said it aloud. She broke down in tears and said she was under stress. I didn't understand. It wasn't her intention. "Tell her you meant it," I said. As she was leaving, she slammed the door. She then began phoning my dad constantly in an attempt to persuade him to return. He disregarded her. She had nothing on him, but she threatened to sue him for money. He was legitimate. He had his own apartment and accounts. Our family began to notice. She stopped receiving money from my granny. Said she had to work things out on her own. She occasionally attended family events, but no one was interested in drama. As a result, she would wind up sitting in the corner and seeming indifferent while browsing through her phone. I told everyone that I would not speak to her until she came clean, which was never going to happen. Tiffany was the only person I truly cared about, and she was old enough to live with her father or friends by this point. Mom's guilt trips were thus failing. I even assisted Dad in obtaining full custody. Tiffany asked for my mom, but not because he intended to harm her. When she learned, she lost it. Said that we were ruining her life and called shouting. "You did that yourself," I told her. After that, she blocked me. Unblock games, however, persisted for months. "Your mother is worried about you, according to the texts I started receiving from strange numbers. You ought to give her a call." However, it was clear she was only attempting to hide her voice or use a different number. I chose to ignore everyone, and she began attending church. More people sharing motivational sayings as if she were the victim. I simply muted her all over. Still, she called. She continues to leave voicemails every few weeks, even after 4 years. Half threat, half apology. Sometimes they blame me, and other times they simply weep. I don't respond. My dad is doing well now. I'm genuinely delighted for the first time. Tiffany is pursuing her own interests. Hardly, seldom speaks to Mom. My mom works temporary jobs in a dilapidated apartment. I have no idea how to handle bills. She no longer has Brenda in her life. The home has vanished. The car is gone. Her former buddies are all gone. She wants freedom from us. Live a better existence. She understood, though. No arc of forgiveness. No drama. Don't return. I ensured she lost all she once possessed about us. She doesn't stop calling. I simply let it ring. That's okay with me. That's all. If you are anticipating a dramatic, made-up conclusion, you're in luck. Apologies. Not taking place. Some errors are beyond your control. Furthermore, I won't act as though I regret it. The theory of fate.